everybody, and we're going to be nattering about finishing big projects because I finished Tales from the Triverse in January after 4.5 years of serializing that massive thing. And Eleanor, you've just had Fallout come out.
I have indeed. Hang on, I need to loop back what you've just said. So you finished Triverse in January.
Yes, it's all
Wow.
wrapped up.
How did that feel?
Yeah, very, very weird. I mean, it was that thing. I think that's what we're going to be nattering about, isn't it? That weird combination of feelings you have when you finish a big project, where on the one hand you're like, oh, I'm really pleased I got to the end and it was a cool achievement, but then you're also just knackered, and then also you then have this very strange absence. Particularly, I think if you're doing a serial where every week you're doing something and it becomes a very routine part of what you're up to, and then the week after you finish, you get to like the day when you normally put a chapter out and you've got nothing to do. It was very odd, but I did feel my brain sort of relaxing and just expanding. With less
there's
pressure.
a grief. There's definitely a grief, and I find even when I finish a draft of a new novel, no one's seen it yet. I'll finish a draft because I will have been working intensely every day for 4 or 5 months, and then I should know better now, but I really fall off a cliff like when I stop. And definitely with serialization, same thing. There's a kind of like I always think as in the run up, I can't wait, I can have a sleep. But actually what happens is I get really, depressed is probably too strong a word, but I definitely fall off a cliff. I definitely feel, what the fuck happened there?
Yeah, and I have it like a few months later with my previous projects. I've noticed this where I think when I write fiction, I don't know if this is the same for everyone, but I feel like the locations and the characters in the book, they seem to end up lodging in my memory in the same way that like a holiday does. So if I've gone on holiday for a week somewhere, that seems to live in the same bit of my brain as completely fictional stuff that I've made up. So I'll get to a point where I'll suddenly be thinking, oh, I've not been there for a while. And they go, oh no, hang on, I made that up. It doesn't actually exist as a place.
I've been in conversation with people. We've been somewhere and I've gone, oh my God, this is where, and then I realised I'm about to tell them this is where I set that scene where so and so, and
this is where I made something up.
This is where I made something up. Get a grip. Yeah, the whole thing just completely morphs. I haven't got any. I should be able to see people coming up on my right. I can't see them. Can you see them?
You can't see them. Oh, I've got a big list of people joining.
I won't be able to see messages that are coming up to me. Why it hasn't come up in mine says preview mode. What if I get rid of that thing? What happened there?
That's weird. Eleanor has left the stream. I shall wait, and she should hopefully reappear. But I would guess that whatever the button was that Eleanor just pressed is the button you shouldn't press. So yeah, we'll give that a sec. She should be able to just come straight back in, I think. Otherwise, we may have to restart. But anyway, I will just talk amongst myself for a little bit. Because, I was very lucky to go down to the book launch in London a couple of weeks back of Eleanor's new book. Here we go. I'm just trying to see if we can get Eleanor back in. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to bring Eleanor back, and then everything will be fine. Yeah, Angie, exactly. Don't press the button. Never press the button. Here we go.
Sorry,
someone's back.
Literally famous last word. What happens if I press that?
Yeah. Don't press that button.
Don't press that button.
Now we know, so that's useful. This is a live Substack tutorial.
I'm incredibly professional.
It's not like you haven't done loads of these, Eleanor.
I know, but in my defense, it now looks completely different. Like none of the buttons were showing up.
So you've now got what should be there. Okay. Excellent. Right, where were we? Just
that's again. Just let me go back because I remember the last time we spoke. I think you hadn't, but you knew the end was coming, right? You decided the end's coming.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, but didn't I? I think I said that for 2 years, though, didn't I?
You might have been saying, but no, I seen. But you were like, no, it's definitely because I remember saying to you, "How do you know the end's coming?" And you were like, "Well, it's got to stop somewhere."
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was a definite about a year back, so sort of January 2025. Yes. 'Cause I think Triverse was unusual in that it was a kind of anthology, sort of anthology series, and that it was lots of little mini stories that gradually added up and then became a larger plot. But I had to sort of decide when to stop doing the kind of procedural detective stories and tip over into the kind of end game plot,
Yeah.
I suppose. And I knew that when I sort of pulled that lever, there was no going back. But I think I expected once I pulled that lever for it to be maybe a couple of months of writing and publishing, and it turned into a year. So there was a lot more of it. And yeah, so I was very tired by the end.
Did it end? This will sound like a stupid question. Did it end how you thought it would?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I did. I landed it where I wanted to land it. So I was quite satisfied, and from the readers that were reading sort of from the start, who have commented, they seemed to be satisfied with it. So
Oh,
that was the main thing. No one's been like, "Oh, I've just been wasted 4 years reading this stupid thing." So,
4 years
yeah,
of my life moment.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, it did come down, like it landed where I wanted it to. It just took slightly longer than I expected.
Yeah. Well,
But
congrats.
yeah.
A huge achievement. What a feat.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. It ended up being a much bigger project than I expected.
Who end up like that, don't they, though? These are ideas.
Yes, yeah, I know. Yeah, they could get out of control
Get
somewhat.
out of well, in the best fiction does get out of control in that sense because it means it's alive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think 'cause, I plan out quite a bit as I'm writing because particularly the way I do it, where I write and publish as I go along. If I don't plan it out to some degree, it just feels like I'm making it up, and you can't foreshadow and do interesting stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, you have to leave it a little bit loose because otherwise the writing gets really boring. And I think if
Yeah.
the writer's bored writing it because they're just like typing out the plot basically, then it's not going to be fun to read.
Always guaranteed if the writer's bored, the reader's bored. I mean, I think that's an absolute, it's one of the few like truths we can all stand by, isn't it? I reckon.
Yes, indeed, indeed. When you disappeared, very
Yes.
very like enigmatically, um, just for effect.
Yeah.
I was just saying to everyone who was still here, being slightly confused, that
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago, was down in London and was fortunate enough to go to your book launch, which was
Yeah.
extremely exciting. I don't know if, I don't think if I've ever been to a book launch of a book by someone I actually know, rather than, an author that I read. So if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that was great.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
That was great. So tell us a little bit about like having a nice big book launch, and then subsequently you've been going to New York and hanging out in Times Square doing cool things, and it all just looks extremely exciting.
It was exciting. I mean, the book launch, originally I wasn't going to have a book launch because for anyone who's had one, they are quite stressful as well. I mean, any sort of party is a little bit stressful. And I'd already I had one for my debut, I had one for In Judgment of Others. And then I was just like, do you know what? I'm not going to do a book launch for this one. But my publicists were like, what are you talking about? You have to do a book launch. And I was like, oh, so I was sort of talked into it. And then I really wanted it at Daunt, which is where I had my debut launch on the famous Daunt on Marylebone. But then that was booked up, and I was like, "It's a sign. I'm not going to do it." And then they said, "Look, let us we'll ring around a few places." And then the LRB, which is the London Review Bookshop, which is incredible. It's an iconic bookshop in London. It's very famous. It's very special. It's just opposite British History Museum, and they said yes. And I was like, "Oh shit, okay."
Got to do something now.
So venue was booked. And we just stuck a pin in the date. I always think book launches should be on a Thursday. I don't know where I get that from, but so I stuck a pin in the Thursday, the 23rd of May, wasn't it? No, April, 23rd of April. We're not at May yet.
Yep.
What's her time? And then I was walking through somewhere like Covent Garden one day, about a month after I'd booked it. No, it was a month before the launch. And I bumped into my old friend Matt Whitley, who's he designs suits. He makes suits.
Yes.
And I hadn't seen him for years. And it was pouring with rain. And we know each other from West London. And there we were in a completely different part of London, started chatting. And he said, please let me dress you for your launch. And I was like, I've always wanted a Matt Whitley suit. I was like, okay. So then I had the outfit. It was all coming together. So it was coming together, and then the books, and it's been complicated because it's a US publisher. So the books are being printed in the US. They're being printed by, I think they're called Lakeside. And then because of the person we will not name, who is in charge of America at this moment in time, exports and imports are very complicated, trying to get books. So we knew that we had to print in the UK if we weren't going to hit like suddenly launch, but no books. That was a moment of real panic. So we did a whole lot of stuff with CPI and got a whole lot of, so with that challenge was met. So we were meeting all these challenges, like it's going to be okay. All the invites went out. A lot of people were saying they were coming. It was going to be all good. And then 2 days before launch, Transport for London decided there was a complete tube strike across the whole of London.
Turned off all the trains.
Everything was just stop. And the LRB, for anyone who doesn't know London, LRB is bang in the middle of London. It's basically Central Line, Metropolitan Line, Northern Line, all the lines that were shut.
Yeah. And obviously in London, if the tube stopped working, like you still got buses, but the problem is that the entire population of London is getting on the buses.
Cannot get a bus. You can get on a bus, but you won't go anywhere. You can't get a cab because we can't go anywhere. So you can get a bicycle or you can walk. So at that moment, and I remember I got a message from my friend Susan saying, really sorry, tube strike. And this was 2 days before, and I just cold sweat. I just had that kind of, oh my God, it's going to be me in a ring light. So then I made my peace with that. It's like, do you know what? This is my motto, everything as it needs to be. It's going to be me in a ring light. We've all had times where we've felt a bit embarrassed, but nevertheless, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to be proud. It's been fine. But then what happened, and I found this out at the launch. I mean, there must have been, and it was a full room, wasn't it, Simon? So I don't know what, 60 people turned up. And they came from all over the place. And a lot of people said to me, when we heard it was a tube strike, we couldn't bear the idea of it being just you in a ring light. So real. And a lot of people literally doubled, tripled their travel time, walked from various mainline stations. I mean, it was my own 30,000 turning up on the 12th of December. It really was a moment. I was so touched by the turnout, and it turned into an absolutely electric night. It was amazing. So
that was great. That was so cool. And I was glad I made it. But yeah, my feet did hurt more the next day than I expected, but it was worth it.
Walked from Norwich. So.
Not quite from Norwich, but yeah. And also, we should just rewind a little bit. The purple suit was pretty amazing. So yeah, anyone who hasn't seen this suit should go and check out Eleanor's like Substack notes because there's some pictures in there.
I've decided, and I'm off to Foy this weekend in Cornwall to do the Tomorrow Literary Festival. So I'm taking the suit next week. Women's Hour, but they live stream it as well, so it's visual as well as radio. So I'm going to be wearing the suit. So the suit and me basically are on tour, like, because I think I've never done that before with a book publicity tour, but actually wearing exactly the same outfit for every single event creates, if not anything else, just comedy. So
yeah, no, but it's very kind of you to accompany the suit on its tour.
Exactly, the suit's getting more attention. I'm telling you now. People go, wait, I love that suit. Oh my God. And in New York, I swear to God, when I went on my way to the New York launch, I got out of the Uber and 3 people stopped me in quick succession to tell me how much they loved that suit. It was like, so that was when I sent a reel to I sent a private video message actually to my friend Matt, and then he put it on Instagram absolutely immediately saying,
nice.
New York loves you. So yeah, it's been pretty special to have all of that all happen at the same time.
That is very cool. So with Fallout, it was an interesting one because you did serialize that on Substack 3 years ago. I can't remember because I think that's when I first encountered you, I think, and I was reading Fallout on your Substack.
Hey.
And then, yeah, obviously you've taken it from that into being published and having this amazing publishing experience. And the previous 2 books you did, you went hybrid with those. So you've tried like every possible route to publishing that you can take.
And my debut was with Salt. So that was indie trad.
Yeah.
Yes. The only one I haven't done yet is Big 5. They're in my sites.
Yep. Excellent.
I found those other ones. Exactly.
So how did you go on?
Well, I was just going to say that I happened to come across a bit of old research for Fallout the other day and realised that I began it in 2022.
Yeah.
So long ago.
How did you end up with Empress Editions as the publisher? How did that sort of come about?
Well, great good fortune. So I'd streamed it. So in my memoir and In Judgment of Others, I'd streamed and self-published hybrid with Troubadour. And then Fallout. So I must have begun the research in 2022. I probably got it to my agent in 23, 24, something like that. And we will have sent it out, didn't get any bites in the UK. And, it was dead in the water. And having streamed the other two, I thought, well, fuck that shit. I'm not going to have it not even get a breath of air. I'm going to use my Substack platform and I'm going to stream it. I've got nothing to lose. So I edited it for streaming, which is a slightly different. I don't write for streaming. Normally my novel, what it's like chapter lengths and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so I edited it for streaming. And I'm pretty sure I recorded an audio to go with it, which I put straight out on podcasts and all the rest of it, Apple, whatever, Spotify. And I streamed it over, it's got to be 9-10 months, something like that, I reckon, every week. And I'm not sure when Empress picked it up, but I think I'd finished streaming it. And I think I was chatting with Elisa Kennedy Jones. And because I knew it was midlife women, so I ticked that box, but it was very much romancy and non-fiction. So I was just chatting to her with no agenda. I didn't think they'd be interested. And she said, well, we'll take it. I think I was moaning to her. She said, we'll have it. And I was like, what are you talking about? You don't publish literary fiction. She said, well, we do now. It's like,
that's the way to do it.
So, it was amazing. And there you go, and actually I've been having, I'm sort of working up an article. I'm going to pitch an article around streaming on Substack and the kind of the UK publishing industry's view of that and whether, because lots of people ask me now if I stream.
That's always the big question, isn't it?
Does that exclude me from submitting to any publisher, whether it's a big five or an indie or whatever? So I've been doing a little bit of research in that and I'll be writing an article about it. But the upshot, it seems to be at the moment, is for indies anyway, it doesn't actually exclude you. They don't seem to have a view around that. But there is more of a view around, like, if you're streaming it, does that mean that you haven't been able to get it anywhere else? Which we can take a view on that question. And also length of time that it takes to stream. So the work's out there for a long time. Also the editing process. The indies I've spoken to, quite rightly, they're very, and I mean this complimentary, they're precious about their editing. And so, when you're streaming, you've kind of already edited, unless, of course, you're streaming to market test the material in a very raw state. But you would never, if that were the case, you wouldn't submit that to an indie publisher because it wouldn't be ready. So there are a lot of reasons why indies haven't really taken stream. The only one that has, I hope I can get his name right, I think it was Toby Litt, the diary that Gally Beggar published. And the reason why they did that was because the streaming of the diary was integral to the form of the fiction. So that made sense to them why that had happened.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So the upshot is, and I'll do more research on it, there's no hard and fast no. If you've streamed, you can't submit. That's not the case. But there are a lot of questions around it for publishers.
Yeah, and not every serial or way of serializing is the same. As you say, there's all sorts of different ways of doing it, which will have a different impact.
And lots of reasons to do it. And some people do it to market test. Some people do it to just get the material up and out because they're too frightened. They've hit that fear barrier. And so if they start streaming, it forces the material out. Mm-hmm. And some people do it like I did because without that, Fallout would have had no other chance to live. Yeah. And it was very published by then, pretty much. Although having said that, we did do some quite big structural edits when it came to Empress. So we moved, like the original first chapter became the second chapter, and the original 14th chapter became the first chapter, which is quite a big move about.
Yeah, interesting. So is that something that on reflection you looked at that and thought, oh, this would be interesting? Or was that the editors at Empress?
Yeah, no, I didn't. But the reason I took that note and said yes to it was because um, she had her eye on the commerciality of it. Because I'm definitely a literary fiction writer. So I don't write thinking, right, you've got to go in with a bang, you've got to grab them, I'm just writing my novels. But the fact is that Fallout, one of the reasons I think it's doing well, because it is literary fiction, but it's wrapped in a sort of commercial coat. I mean, the cover is very commercial, and also structurally, just that one change, that bit, it opens with Lost Bridget, which actually makes brilliant sense. And then we go back, you know what I mean? And there's no really explanation how, there's not like, 3 hours earlier, we just go back. But she was right, because it does. And, you can't be naive in this market. You do need to grab people. If if you're reading that first chapter and you're not interested by the end, you've lost them. They're not going to read the second and third and find out that actually Bridget is going to run away. So so I took it. Yeah. And also I wrote an extra. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some commercial considerations. Like, yeah, there's sort of a threshold, isn't there? Because there's some where it's really not going to harm the integrity of the story you wanted to write, but then there are some where it will go too far, and then you'll be like, no, actually, this is going to drag it away from what it needs to be.
Yeah.
No,
No,
that's a good plan.
yeah, I loved my original opening, because I like slow, steady openings where we set the scene and we go in and it builds and builds and builds, and I like that. But I'm not a hugely commercial writer, and they need to sell books. They need to get people in like bang on the ground. So it wasn't a huge compromise. I think
No.
it does.
And really interesting, like, for your subscribers who were there when you originally streamed the book, when they read the print edition now, they're obviously going to get a slightly different experience, which is kind of interesting in itself.
Yeah, that's right. And that was the other thing I've been talking to indie presses about, is whether people who've read it on Substack will buy the hard copy. And my experience is absolutely. I've had loads of people say, read it on Substack, can't wait to get my copy. It translate. I think that's one of the reasons why I want to pitch this article I want to pitch it to the bookseller, is because I think that's one of the things that puts off bigger publishing houses, is like, well, it's already out. Why is anyone going to buy it? And my experience tells me they absolutely are going to buy it. But I don't know what the numbers are. You know what I mean? But
yeah, no, I think you're right, though. I mean, I've certainly got that sense with Triverse that there's a bunch of people who have read it who would love to have a physical edition of it. But I also know there's a bunch of people who would quite like to read it, but can't be asked, like, clicking through billions of chapters on Substack or what have you, and again, just want a book. So I think there's all sorts of different types of reader, and something I haven't done very well with Triverse, because I was just so trying to get the story out in serial form. If I was more organized and a bit more business minded, I would have been putting out like print editions every 6 months or something, and letting people catch up that way. But
okay, I mean, yeah, in an ideal world, that would have been like, super great. But I think, I mean, I don't know how you would have found the time, but I think there's a love affair. I think certainly I feel this with books that I love. Well, I want to possess the hard copy, even if I have. I mean, I'm a hard copy reader anyway. I'm not an ebook, and I'm not. Do you know what I mean? So I'll always read like that. And even audio, I can't even listen to fiction on audio because I just drift off. I don't focus. But yeah, I think that's one of the messages I want to put out, is that people. But I mean, maybe we're living in a tiny little glass bubble. I don't know, but I know that's how I feel, and that's definitely the messages that I've been receiving. So, are you going to put Triverse out in hard copy?
I am, but I don't quite know when this is going to happen, because it's such an enormous manuscript that it's like 450,000 words or something, for which I can only apologize.
Yeah. Okay,
so
so that's 4 books. if not
Yeah,
5 or 6.
yeah. It's a series of books, and also, so I was trying to figure out, like, do I edit this into something that is more novelistic in its shape, or do I put it
Right.
out as a kind of, this is what it was, this is the serial in hardback form or something? And I think I'm inclined towards just keeping it in its serialized structure because that's how it was kind of built. Um,
Yeah.
and it would be such a mammoth task to try and convert it into like a more
Yeah,
typical.
that would be a whole new book, really. And
Yeah,
also, chances of you not getting in some way distracted in that process
yeah,
are minimal,
yeah.
really.
I'm quite intrigued by, because I've seen a lot of people. I don't know if I could put up with the stress of doing like a Kickstarter, but I've seen people do like
Yeah.
really fancy editions of books. So it's
Yeah.
less about, just a either print on demand or a kind of traditional distribution to bookshops. It's very much a sort of limited run, really fancy. I'd love to have like a little box set with
Mm.
the whole series in it in some way, but practically how to do that, I'm not quite sure. But the
Yeah,
idea
I mean,
intrigues me.
Samuel from If Not Paris, the Requisitions, he produced very high production value, beautiful copies are absolutely worth. You want the hard copy, but that wasn't serialized. That was like, oh, you're going to get it. Also, Michelle Howarth, Glitter Balls, hardback, really beautiful, high production values. I think that's the direction I'd go in. That limit. I love the idea, with Self Pub, calling it limited edition is a real power play to me. I
Yeah,
like.
and I think with that particular project, because it's so stupidly big, like it's not a normal book anyway. So putting it out as like a weird artifact, I think would be quite fun.
Would be fun. Exactly. Is it illustrated? Is there any
Uh,
illustrations?
I mean, I did a bunch of illustrations as I was going along, but they're very much like my little squiggles. So yeah, that's the other issue I have with it, because I basically I edit myself as I go along and publish, and I do as good a job as I can. But obviously, it's not as good as when you buy a book in a bookshop, inevitably. But hopefully, the exchange of being there as a book comes into being is a decent exchange for the fact that it's going to be a little rough in places. But when it goes out as a book, I can't really get away with that. Like, it has to be high quality. But the problem I have now is because it's so huge, the cost of hiring an editor to go through that is prohibitive.
Yeah.
So
So,
it's a bit of
okay,
a
let's
catch
get
twenty
into
two.
that. So you're talking about both a line edit and a proof, are you? Which one are you talking?
I think probably more of a proof, because I think I'm fairly content with it going out as is. Not
Okay,
kind of.
literally grammar, spelling, all that kind of stuff. You're pretty.
Well, I think in terms of sort of typos, spelling, I'd want that to be high quality and
You
polished.
have to be, otherwise that's the end of it of a reading.
Exactly. But in terms of, oh, this paragraph could be improved or this sentence could be improved, I don't mind that so much, because it's a representation of the serial
Yeah.
as it went out.
So you're really talking about a line edit, like a typo,
Yeah.
and I mean, Word does that. Does
Yeah. Yeah. You can get a fair bit of the way doing that kind of
you
stuff.
get a bit away just with that? I mean, I hate Copilot with a passion. If anyone knows how to turn off Copilot, can you please DM me, because it drives me absolutely. It almost makes me want to not use Word, but all that kind of grammatical, stuff is yeah,
Yes.
you'd have
Yes.
to.
Yeah. I have some practical logistics to figure out, but yes, that's sort of
Okay,
bubbling
well,
away in the background.
I think it would make a really beautiful. I want to say artifact, but you know what I mean. Like,
Mm, mm.
it's a piece, isn't it, to mark this amazing thing you've done.
Yeah, no, it'd be pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
and my big cunning plan
Mm.
is, because I'm itching to get back into putting a serial out, but
Yeah.
obviously,
Okay.
if I start doing a weekly serial, I will never do any of these other things. So what I'm actually going to do is slightly taking a leaf out of how you do it. I'm going to go back to a previous serial that I put out on Wattpad 10 years ago, uh, and re-serialize that through the newsletter, because
The work done.
99% of people on the newsletter have not read this thing. So I'm going to
Yeah.
revitalize it a bit, rewrite as I go a little bit, but based on an existing manuscript rather than doing.
Bulk of the work's done already.
Yeah.
That'll be easy.
Yeah. So
Okay.
my plan in theory is that because like the bulk of the work is done, as you say, I'll be able to do that while at the same time fiddling around with Triverse and doing something else.
Famous last words.
I know. Yeah,
But
we'll see if that works out.
yeah, I'm sure. I know. I bet you'll do it. But do you miss the routine? Is that one of the
Yeah,
things?
I really do. It was quite nice for 2 to 3 weeks to not have to do it because it was just I hadn't realised how wound up I was, particularly in the last year of writing Triverse. Because prior to that, it was all fun and games. But then when I did that, right, I'm going to end this now. All these plot threads and character arcs just had to suddenly come together perfectly at the exact moment, and that was so ridiculously hard.
Yeah,
um, so
it's
yeah, by the
amazing.
end of it, my brain hurt. So yeah, I then felt extremely relaxed for a few weeks, but then started to get a bit twitchy.
Yeah,
Which is
a little
then,
bit.
so I wrote a short story because I was like, oh, not writing any short stories for ages. That took ages. Like it took me like a month and a bit to write this short story, which I know is completely fine. But when I'm used to writing an equivalent amount of words for a serial every week, I was like, why is this taking so long? But it's a different kind of
Why?
thing.
Why was it? Was it the form, or was it just you had more time on your hands?
A bit of both. So I didn't have an imposed deadline, which is deadly for my brain, but
Yeah.
also I think the form is just very different. And I didn't have that kind of scaffold of the Triverse setting and ensemble cast. And, I could write those characters without even thinking almost. Whereas with the short story it's all new.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
has to stand entirely by itself. It can't rely on later chapters to retrospectively make it better or whatever.
Yeah,
So yeah, it was really interesting challenge.
yeah. I'm getting itchy as well, I have to say. Like, that just the thing I am working on something, but obviously I've had to put it aside for this promotion tour and everything. But in fact, even today I was talking to the character in my head saying, look, the first week of August, I'm yours. Do you know what I mean? We'll be back underground, me and you, and we will work. Because it's impossible right now, even though I'm thinking about it all the time. And yeah, I'm not saying anything about it, but I'm thinking about it all the time. But I haven't got the bandwidth, but I really miss even actually and that's why I write the obsessive diary. Mostly I don't want to be writing what I'm really been doing. I just want to write little vignettes so I can just practice the art of just writing little vignettes, little scenes that happen, but I remember. Like I'll do this practice where I won't take any notes during my day. Like I'll be on the tube and I'll just be watching all the time. And then I will just see what comes back to me and I'll write that. And that's how I kind of itch the scratch or scratch the
Scratch the
that
itch, yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm itching.
I think one of the things I've found tricky as well is like my fiction writing is very much how I process the real world. So,
Yeah.
people who were reading Triverse as it was going out, although I had an idea of where the story was going, it reflects current affairs and things that are happening in the news and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of the themes relate to the last 10 years of, global politics and what have you, despite it being, very fantasy sci-fi craziness.
Mm.
And so not having that serial to kind of vent that stuff, because I don't go on Notes or X or whatever and rant about stuff that's bothering me. I just don't do that these days, but I do put it into my fiction in a
Yeah.
sort of angled manner. So not
Yeah.
having a weekly chapter where I can get some of those themes out, it all ends up just in my brain instead. And obviously there's a lot of news at the moment.
Is that
So yeah, not having that regular sort of place to process it
okay?
through
That's
fiction
so
is
interesting.
hard.
Because there's no doubt the deeper I get into fiction, the more I understand that fiction is where you put fact and
Yeah.
non is where you make shit up. Really, do you know what I mean? In that sense, like we're all kind of imagining our memories are really made up and they're our version of the truth and all that. So it's more, memoir tends to be a lot more fictional than fictions where we can really speak, obviously through characters or through whatever, But yeah, that's what I feel. I'm able to really get into humanity, the human spirit, the psyche, pick it apart, unpack it, say what I want, be really judgmental about people, and then watch them going on this journey, on this voyage from one pole to another. And yeah, because I'm just obsessed with humans and how we tick. And fiction allows me to get right in under the skin.
Yeah.
No me to get out.
Yeah, exactly. And then it doesn't get under my skin in the same way because it gets out onto the page.
Yeah, it's out on the page. Yeah, and it's genuinely, when you say it's an itch, I start to get a little bit antsy. Like and I'm feeling this now, like being out in the sunlight of a book tour is amazing. And it is what we all drive at, and it's brilliant. But I tell you, I cannot wait to get back underground again.
Yeah. And what is your plan with whatever the next project is? Because the thing I always love about the way you do it is that you've published your work in so many different ways, and you have to get your work out there in some way. And you've gone traditional, you've done hybrid publishing, you've serialized through a newsletter. So do you have an idea of what the next thing, like how that will get out into the world?
Well, I've got 2 projects on the go at the moment, is the truth of it. One of them I can tell you about because it's written, and it's going to be going out on submission. It's called The Moderns, and it's set in 1958, and it's linked to Fallout in some clever magic way that I'm not going to say right now.
The Elena Anstrella expanded universe. Like, we'll start to slot together.
Yeah, it's set in 1958, so it's 2 decades before.
Mm-hmm.
3 decades, 50 to 78. Yes, well, there's 2 decades in the middle, basically, which are not, but anyway, 58. But I was going to stream it. I was thinking of streaming because it's a big, meaty novel. I wrote it like in 2021. I think I must have written it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
A long time ago. I'm really proud of it. It's 80,000 words, big for me. And I was thinking, I think I might stream that. And then I was talking to a friend, and they were like, don't stream it. Just don't. So we're going to submit that as just like straight up trad. And then the other one I'm working on, which is in development, which will be, I reckon I won't get a good draft to my agent before next spring. So I don't think we'll be submitting that. And it'll be about 18 months, I reckon, before we're submitting that. Maybe a year, possibly. Yeah. And we'll submit that the trad way and see what happens. I really want, I want a nice little indie press for that one, because I know exactly where I want it to go, actually. I know it'd be a really good fit, but obviously I'm not going to say here what I think. So yeah.
Yeah.
Be streaming anything in the near future. I thought I would be, but actually I'm not going to be. So I'll just be writing the diary and just keeping my hand in, writing little vignettes, I think, and doing a lot more. I really love doing these lives. Also, in the offing, there's the idea of an actual IRL salon in London, which I'm in negotiations to think about and talk about with various venues and stuff like that.
Well, you said it out loud now, so you have to do it.
Get it out loud now. Yeah, enough. The Obsessive Salon. Yeah, I am announcing the Obsessive Salon. So we're not there yet, but we're moving towards it. I've got lots of people interested, and I think we'd do 4 a year, and just small. And I'll be announcing when we've got actual something concrete and ticket sales and all that kind of stuff. Because I've never done that before, but I've, over the past year, I think I must have interviewed 50 people, I reckon, maybe more than that. And I clearly enjoy it. Otherwise I wouldn't keep doing it, even though I get really nervous. But I do really enjoy it. And so various friends said to me, do a salon, because there used to be this great one in London. Damien Barr used to run the best salon in London. It was really brilliant. And he stopped about a year or 2 ago. And there's a hole where Damien used to be. So I might just see if I can step into his boots.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Yeah, because you were, even before doing the sort of video live chats, you were doing was it 8 questions, little interviews as well?
And I did 8. You were my very first guest.
I know. And then you got much more famous people after that.
But You set the scene, Simon. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
You was again, that was born out of, I remember having a conversation with you and I was like, I really want people to ask someone to ask me these questions. So then I just asked myself the questions and then I asked
Yep.
you the question. And then it just grew. But I would say to everybody listening, it's amazing who says yes. If you DM with a nice, friendly question, like, will you? It's amazing who says yes.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of fun meeting a lot of really great people. So yeah, then 8Q slowly I'd sort of exhausted it somehow. And exactly at that moment, live appeared. So I just sort of morphed into live.
Yeah.
Great guest next week actually coming on. Yeah, and I got Eve Chase coming in June, so I can't wait. Brilliant.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm writing an article at the moment about the kind of the 3 times I've encountered good communities on the internet, basically over 30 years or whatever. And being on Substack is one of those. And I didn't really expect to get, because the previous 2 were kind of way back in the old
What
days.
were the other 2?
So originally it was in the 90s on Usenet. So it was like the really old news groups, like pre-web stuff. And I was on a very nerdy news group for a science fiction TV show I was watching. But like that was just a reason for people to coalesce. And then after that, it was just this lovely place that people hung out and chatted. And then after that, it was a kind of filmmaking, visual effects community that was actually where I was working for a long while, but a big community grew up around that. But again, it was this kind of like organic thing that appeared. And this was before YouTube, before any social media. So anyone who was making films and publishing it online before YouTube, like you had to know what you were doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were kind of teenagers who were coming through and are now like doing all sorts of fancy stuff. But that was really exciting. And then it kind of all disappeared because it got replaced by social media, which felt like community, but was
Fake.
actually shit.
Totally fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It felt really exciting in the moment, but had
Yeah.
no lasting
Mm.
like resonance or anything. For me anyway.
Although I did find back in the very early Twitter days, I did find that I was able to connect a bit like what happened here.
Yeah.
I connect with people that I wouldn't normally be able to contact, and they were
Mm,
very open to me. So I did
yeah.
make connections there, but
Yeah, those early days, you're right. It was a bit better.
I wouldn't call
But
it community. It
yeah,
didn't morph this what we have here, which I've never known a writing community like this. It's amazing.
no, I think what Substack have. I mean, I assume that there were design decisions behind it. I don't know how on purpose it was, or whether they just sort of lucked into it. But the way they've managed to blend, obviously, very large scale in terms of how they operate as a platform, but then we all get our own individual little bit of it. So,
Yeah.
like, my
I wa-
newsletter is my newsletter, yours is yours, etc. So you kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely. I mean, I asked Hamish and Chris that probably, and it was absolutely intentional that it's author led, and it was completely up to you to succeed or fail, you sink or swim. It was, and I think that's why just to hesitantly veer towards some of the more contentious new arrivals on Substack, and in the past when there've
Yeah.
been contentious arrivals on Substack, I've had an opinion about it, but I know that they've held this line that says, look, this is our version of the world, and the world has all kinds of shit in it, and you have your corner, and you just and of course there's a lot to be said around that in terms of, you can say what you will allow in the town, the town square. There are some things which we simply as a human race will say no to in the town square, and I think something has been done about that now here on Substack. But more generally, there's a line which is like, well, we don't want it to be an echo chamber. And we do say, you're not
Yeah.
going to agree, but it is author led. And I think it allows for these lovely pools. I found myself, in this pool with you and all these great people I can see who've come to,
Yeah.
watching part in this. And hi, Elle. We should
Yeah.
tell
I mean,
short.
yeah, I think
Elle saying,
Elle joined just after I was complaining about how long it took me to write one short story. um, yes. But yeah, no, it's all fascinating stuff. I think we've said in the past, haven't we, that like you being a literary fiction writer, me being a sci-fi writer, it's the kind of thing where even at like a book festival, like we would never be put on the same panel.
Panel.
Yeah.
I know. And that's
It's
what we allow. Exactly. And that's what we can do here. I know in the past we've sort of tried to get some sort of literary or some sort of fiction festival. And we've never quite, and that bit is a little bit tricky trying to figure that out. I'm always up for it. But that was the thing that really stood out for me last time we talked. Yeah, is that you wouldn't put me and you on the same panel, and actually, or me and Sally Reid. Do you know what I mean? And me and Sally have love having chatting with her. And, you know, so it's that, when it's author led, we actually get to put ourselves in really interesting combinations.
Yeah. No, agreed.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, we could just keep chatting for ages anyway, couldn't we? Like, just But yes, we have to stop at some point. So maybe this is a good point to stop.
Yep.
But we'll do this again.
Great.
I'm sure. Maybe when I kick off with my next serial, we can do one of these, and you can like help me with my panicking. So
okay, that's a deal. Let's do it. Be fine.
Excellent. Right. Well, thank you everybody for coming along, and I'm glad that Eleanor was able to return after dramatically exiting early.
On purpose, kind of up the ante.
Exactly. So, Eleanor, do you want to just say sort of what you're up to at the moment, and what is on your newsletter for anyone who's watching who isn't subscribed at the moment?
Well, I've been a bit remiss on my newsletter because I am on tour with Fallout, publicising it everywhere. So I've just been in America. I've just come back. So it's a lot of excuse. A very good excuse. I will be on Women's Hour. Anyone in the UK, I'll be on Women's Hour next Wednesday, 13th. I will be at the Du Maurier Foy Literary Festival this Saturday. I'll be up in Glasgow in June. I can't think. I've got Billy Letters. I've got a few things in the UK still to come. On my Substack, so you'll find all kinds of me rabbiting on about Fallout, wearing a purple suit, rabbiting on about Greenham Common, which is where Fallout is set. And if you don't know what Greenham Common is, please DM me and I will tell you all about it, or go on my site and you will find out. And I also will be interviewing all kinds of brilliant, extraordinary, fascinating people on the Obsessive Live. So please join me there, subscribe, and you will get links.
Nice. That is very well done. You've been doing a book launch, haven't you, where you know how to talk about what you're up to. Nice. Well, I'm not going to any interesting places or doing exciting stuff like that, but I will be writing a newsletter. I've got some interesting stuff coming up. One thing that has been quite nice about not having the weekly serial is it's basically doubled the amount of time I've had to write the non-fiction stuff. So I've been able to do slightly longer, more detailed stuff. But yes, I will be kicking off a new serial. I don't know, in a month maybe. Let's say in a month. And next Wednesday, I think I'm doing a live chat a bit like this with Sally Reid, where we're going to be doing what is hopefully part one of a series talking all about serial fiction and the craft.
Okay, I'm going to join that. Lovely Sally Reid. Brilliant. That'll be fun. Join that. That'll be great.
Absolutely. All right. Well, everyone have a nice evening or morning or afternoon or wherever it happens to be. And see you next time we do this.
See you soon. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.